The stars had always seemed peaceful to Commander Daniel Carter. He stood at the observation window of Orbital Station 7, watching the blue and green planet below. New Haven was beautiful. 2 million people lived down there, farming the rich soil, building small towns, raising families. It was the kind of world humans had dreamed about for centuries. Daniel smiled as he thought about his wife and daughter in the capital city. His daughter, Emma, had just turned 7. She loved to watch the cargo ships come and go from orbit. Every night, she would wave at the sky, hoping her father could see her. He never missed a night waving back. Even though he knew she could not see him, the communication officer behind him cleared his throat. "Commander, we have incoming ships. Unknown signatures." Daniel turned from the window. "How many?" 12. "No, wait." The officer's face went pale. 47. "Commander, they are Vectory warships." Daniel felt his stomach drop. The Vectory Dominion had been making demands for months. They wanted 3 human colony worlds as buffer territory. Earth had refused through proper diplomatic channels. The Galactic Council had supported humanity's right to keep their colonies, but the Vectory were not known for respecting council decisions. "Get me a channel to the lead ship," Daniel ordered, "and alert the planetary defense grid." The screen flickered to life. A Vectory commander appeared, tall and covered in dark scales, with 4 eyes that held no warmth. "Human station, you will stand down. Do not interfere with what happens next. This is Commander Daniel Carter of the Earth Fleet. You are entering protected space. State your intentions." The Vectory made a sound like grinding metal. A laugh. "Our intentions? We intend to teach your species a lesson. You refused our generous offer. Now you will learn the cost of saying no to the Dominion." The channel went dead. Daniel watched in horror as the Vectory fleet moved past his tiny station. They did not even bother to destroy it. Orbital Station 7 had only 6 small defense guns. It was meant to guide cargo ships, not fight a war. "Commander!" The officer was shouting now. "They are targeting the surface. They are targeting the cities." The first blast hit the capital. Daniel pressed his hands against the window. He could see the flash from orbit, a bright orange bloom spreading across the green land below. Then another, and another. The Vectory ships moved in perfect formation, raining fire down on schools, hospitals, farms, and homes. "No," Daniel whispered. No. He tried to call his wife. The lines were dead. He tried to reach the planetary governor. Nothing. The Vectory were jamming everything. For 6 hours, Daniel Carter stood at that window and watched his world burn. He watched the clouds turn black with smoke and ash. He watched the lights of cities go dark, one by one. When it was over, the Vectory commander appeared on screen again. "Let this be a message to all humans. The Dominion does not ask twice." Then the fleet jumped away, leaving nothing but silence and death. Daniel sank to his knees. His wife, his daughter, Emma, who waved at the stars every night. She was down there somewhere, in the ashes of everything he loved. The communication officer spoke softly. "Commander, I have a channel to Earth Command. Admiral Kevin Morris is waiting." Daniel could not move, could not speak. Another officer helped him to a chair and put the headset in his hands. Admiral Morris appeared on the small screen. He was an older man, gray-haired and calm, but Daniel could see something terrible in his eyes. He had already seen the footage. The whole fleet had seen it. The Vectory had broadcast the massacre on every galactic frequency. "Commander Carter," Morris said quietly, "I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry. They killed everyone." Daniel's voice sounded strange to his own ears, empty. "Almost 2 million people. They just killed them all. I know. What do we do, Admiral? What do we do now?" Morris was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder, colder. We are calling an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Every fleet is being recalled. Every station is going to full alert. The Galactic Council, Daniel said. They have laws. They have to do something. Morris shook his head slowly. The Council has already responded. They sent their condolences. They said they will open an investigation. They will form a committee. A committee? Daniel felt something burning in his chest. They murdered 2 million people, and the galaxy is going to form a committee. The Vectri are too powerful, Commander. Too connected. No one wants to stand against them. Morris leaned closer to the screen. But that does not mean nothing will be done. What are you saying? I am saying that Earth has been playing by the rules. We joined the galactic community. We signed their treaties. We followed their laws. We smiled and nodded and trusted that civilization would protect us. Morris's jaw tightened. That is over now. Governor Lisa Morgan was one of the few survivors on New Haven. She had been visiting a remote farming village when the attack came. Now she stood in the ashes of what had been her capital city, surrounded by rescue workers who had nothing left to rescue. A young soldier approached her. Governor, we have a shuttle ready. Earth wants you at the emergency council meeting. Lisa looked at the ruins around her. She had known so many of the people who died here. Friends, neighbors, children who played in the parks she had helped build. Tell them I am coming, she said. 3 days later, she stood before the United Earth Council. The room was silent. Every leader, every admiral, every representative sat frozen as they watched the footage from New Haven one more time. When it ended, the council president turned to Admiral Morris. What do we do now? Morris stood. He looked around the room at the faces of his fellow humans. Some were crying. Some were angry. All of them were waiting. For 300 years, we have carried weapons we swore never to use, he said. We locked them away because we believed in a better universe. We believed that if we showed kindness, the galaxy would show kindness back. We were wrong. He walked to the center of the room. The Vectri think we are broken. The galaxy thinks we are finished. Let them think that. Let them believe we are weak. And while they laugh at our grief, we will do what humans have always done when pushed too far. And what is that? The president asked. Morris looked directly into the camera that would broadcast his words to every human world. Whatever we have to. No one in the room argued. No one objected. They had all seen the bodies. They had all heard the screams. Earth went quiet that night. No demands. No threats. Just silence. The galaxy thought it was the silence of surrender. They were very, very wrong. 3 weeks passed after the massacre at New Haven. The galaxy watched Earth carefully, waiting for some kind of response. Angry speeches. Demands for justice. Threats of war. But none of that came. Human ambassadors attended council meetings with quiet voices and downcast eyes. Human ships stayed within their own borders. Human news channels showed only funerals and memorial services, an endless parade of grief. The Vectri ambassador, a large male named Korath, stood before the Galactic Council with a smile on his scaled face. You see? He announced to the gathered representatives. Humans are not warriors. They are soft creatures from a gentle world. One demonstration of true power, and they fold like wet paper. Several alien delegates nodded in agreement. Others stayed silent, uncomfortable, but unwilling to speak against the Dominion. Korath spread his forearms wide. Let this be a lesson to all species. The Vectri do not make empty threats. Cross us, and you will suffer the same fate as those pathetic colonists. What Korath did not know, what no one in that chamber knew, was that Earth's silence was not surrender. It was preparation. Deep, beneath the mountains of Colorado. Dr. Michelle Torres worked in a laboratory that did not officially exist. She had not slept in 4 days. Her team of 30 scientists moved around her like ghosts, speaking in whispers, their faces lit by the glow of screens. "Run the simulation again," Michelle ordered. Her assistant nodded and typed rapidly. On the main display, a 3-dimensional model of a vectory cell appeared. A small glowing particle entered the cell and began to multiply. Within seconds, the cell collapsed. "It works," the assistant breathed. "Dr. Torres, it actually works." Michelle did not smile. She stared at the screen with tired eyes. "Yes, it works. May God forgive us for building it." Project Prometheus was one of humanity's oldest secrets. When Earth first made contact with alien life, scientists had quietly begun studying every species they encountered. Not just their cultures and languages, but their biology. Their weaknesses. For over a century, this research had been locked away, considered too horrible to ever use. Biological weapons that could target a single species while leaving all others unharmed. Viruses that could spread through entire populations in days. Poisons that no alien medicine could cure. Michelle had spent her career hoping she would never have to open these files. Now she worked 20 hours a day to perfect them. General Paul Henderson visited the lab that evening. He was a large man with a shaved head and cold blue eyes. He had commanded Earth's ground forces for 15 years. In all that time, he had never lost a battle. But he had also never fought a battle like the one that was coming. How soon? He asked Michelle. "The biological weapons are ready now." "But General, I have to tell you something." She pulled up another file on her screen. "If we deploy this on a large scale, we could wipe out the entire vectory species. Every man, woman, and child. Every colony. Every ship. All of them dead within a single generation." Henderson stared at the data. His face showed nothing. "And the other projects? The EMP torpedoes are ready. We can shut down any vectory ship within 300 kilometers. Their technology is vulnerable to specific frequencies that do not affect human systems." She switched to another file. "The infiltration viruses can corrupt their communication networks. Once deployed, they will not be able to coordinate their fleets." "Good, General." Michelle grabbed his arm. "I need you to understand what we are building here. These are not just weapons. These are extinction-level tools. If we use them wrong, we become the monsters." Henderson looked at her for a long moment. "Doctor, do you know what the vectory did to the children on New Haven?" Michelle said nothing. "They did not just bomb them. They hunted them. When families tried to escape in shuttles, vectory fighters shot them down one by one. They made a game of it." His voice was flat, empty of emotion. "I have seen the footage. I will see it in my nightmares for the rest of my life." "I know, but we are not going to become monsters," Henderson said. "But we are going to make sure they can never do this again. Whatever it takes." Far across the world, in a small military base in Virginia, Lieutenant Amy Sullivan received her new orders. She was 26 years old, a decorated pilot with 3 years of service. She had joined the fleet hoping to explore the stars. Now she was being assigned to a unit with no name. Her commanding officer, a woman with gray hair and a cybernetic eye, handed her a tablet. "Read this. Memorize it. Then destroy it." Amy looked at the screen. Her eyes went wide. "Ma'am, these orders, these tactics, this is not how we fight." "You are correct, Lieutenant. This is not how civilized species fight." The commander leaned forward. "We are no longer fighting as a civilized species. We are fighting to survive. We are fighting to make sure no one ever targets human civilians again. But these targets are military installations, supply depots, communication hubs, Amy scrolled through the list. We are going to cripple their entire war infrastructure. Yes. What about rules of engagement? What about the council treaties? The commander smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The council did nothing while 2 million of our people burned. The treaties did not protect one single child on New Haven, so we will follow new rules now. Human rules. Amy swallowed hard. She thought about her younger brother, who had talked about joining a colony ship to New Haven before the attack. He had been so excited about the farms and the open sky dot. Now there was nothing left but ash. I understand, ma'am, she said. When do we begin? Soon, very soon. In the Galactic Council chambers, Korath the Vectory ambassador continued to mock humanity at every opportunity. He told jokes about human weakness. He suggested that Earth should give up more colonies to prove they had learned their lesson. The other species laughed, nervously, or stayed silent. No one defended the humans. No one wanted to anger the Dominion. Then, exactly 3 weeks after the massacre, a human diplomat named Nathan Price requested permission to address the council. He was a small man, thin and quiet, with glasses and a plain gray suit. He walked to the podium with slow steps, looking nothing like a threat. Korath laughed loudly. Look, everyone. The humans have sent a librarian to argue with warriors. Nathan Price adjusted his glasses and looked directly at the Vectory ambassador. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. 3 weeks ago, you killed nearly 2 million of our people. Men, women, children, farmers, teachers, doctors. You burned them alive and broadcast their screams across the galaxy. The chamber went silent. The council offered us condolences, investigations, committees. Nathan paused. We declined. Korath snorted. Because you know you are too weak to fight. No, Nathan's voice did not waver. Because we did not need permission from this council. We did not need your approval or your help. We only needed time. Time for what? Nathan Price smiled. It was a thin, cold smile that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. Time to remember who we are. He pressed a button on the podium. A holographic display appeared, showing coordinates, fleet movements, and a timestamp for the following morning. At 600 hours Galactic Standard Time, Earth will formally declare war on the Vectory Dominion. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The chamber exploded in shouts and protests. Korath was laughing so hard, his scales rattled. Nathan waited for quiet. Then he spoke one final time. We offered you peace. You chose war. Now you will learn why our ancestors buried their worst weapons, and why they prayed those weapons would never need to be used again. He turned and walked out of the chamber. The next morning, the first human ships crossed the border. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity looked like when it stopped being civilized. The Vectory military station Corvin 6 floated in the darkness between stars. It was one of the largest bases in the Dominion's border fleet, home to 5,000 soldiers and over 100 warships. The commander of the station, a seasoned warrior named Dexaran, had personally led the attack on New Haven. He was proud of what he had done. The screams of human children still brought a smile to his face. Captain Ryan Collins watched the station through the scope of his stealth vessel, the Silent Judgment. It was a small ship, barely larger than a shuttle, painted black and designed to be invisible to Vectory sensors. 14 other ships just like it hung in the void around him. All units, check in, Ryan said quietly. One by one, his team reported ready. 15 ships, 90 soldiers. Against a station of 5,000. Any other species would have called it suicide. Ryan called it Tuesday. Remember the plan, he said. We hit the power core first. Then communications. Then life support. No warning shots. No second chances. These are the same people who burned New Haven. His crew was silent. They all knew someone who had died on that colony. Some had lost family. Others had lost friends. All of them had lost something. Execute, Ryan ordered. The silent judgment moved forward, sliding through space like a ghost. The other ships followed in perfect formation. They reached the station's outer hull without triggering a single alarm. Human engineers had spent months studying vectory technology. They knew every weakness, every flaw. The small ships attached to the hull like parasites, drilling through the metal with silent cutting tools. Inside the station, Warlord Dexeron was eating his evening meal when the lights flickered. What was that? He demanded his aide check the console. Unknown, Warlord. The sensors show nothing. The lights flickered again. Then the alarms began to scream. Dexeron jumped to his feet. Battle stations. All hands to battle stations. But it was already too late. The human strike team had reached the power core. They planted their devices and retreated through the maintenance tunnels they had memorized from stolen blueprints. When the charges exploded, every light on the station went dark. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, but the damage was done. Half the station's systems were offline. Communications were down. The hangar bay doors were sealed shut, trapping the warships inside. Then came the second wave. Human soldiers poured through the breached hull, moving in tight formations with weapons designed specifically for this mission. The guns fired rounds that ignored vectory armor. The grenades released gas that attacked vectory lungs, but left humans unharmed. Dexeron grabbed a weapon and rushed to defend his station. He found Captain Collins in the main corridor, standing over the bodies of a dozen vectory guards. Human, Dexeron roared. How dare you attack us? Do you know who I am? Ryan looked at him with eyes that held nothing but cold hate. I know exactly who you are. You are the one who gave the order to kill the children on New Haven. You made a game of it. They were weak. Their deaths meant nothing. They meant everything. Ryan raised his weapon. And now you will mean nothing. He fired once. Dexeron fell. When it was over, Station Corvin 6 was dark and silent. No survivors. No distress calls. 5,000 vectory soldiers erased in less than an hour. The human ships detached from the hull and disappeared into the void. News of the attack reached the vectory homeworld within hours. High Sovereign Kethmara, supreme ruler of the Dominion, could not believe what she was hearing. One station, she said. One station, destroyed by 15 ships? Her military advisor nodded slowly. They used weapons we have never seen before, High Sovereign. Weapons that specifically target our biology. Our shields did nothing. Our armor did nothing. How is that possible? We do not know. Our intelligence suggests the humans have been developing these weapons in secret for over a century. Kethmara stared at the report in her hands. The vectory had conquered dozens of species. They had ruled their sector of the galaxy for 1,000 years. No one had ever attacked them like this. Send a fleet to destroy their homeworld, she ordered. End this before it goes further. High Sovereign, our fleet is already moving to engage. But there is a problem. What problem? The advisor brought up a star map. Red dots marked vectory positions. Blue dots marked human ships. There were far more blue dots than there should have been. The humans are not defending their border, the advisor said. They are attacking everywhere at once. Supply convoys, communication relays, fuel stations. They are hitting targets we never thought anyone would consider important. That is madness. Those targets have no military value. Correct, High Sovereign. But without supplies, our fleets cannot travel. Without communications, they cannot coordinate. Without fuel, they cannot fight. Kethmara felt something she had never felt before. Fear. In the Galactic Council chambers. Ambassador Nathan Price stood at the podium once again. This time, no one was laughing. The Vectri accused us of being weak, he said. They called us soft. They believed that because we chose peace, we were incapable of war. He looked around the room at the faces of 100 different species. All of them were watching him with wide eyes. They were wrong. Humanity has always been capable of war. We simply chose not to fight. We buried our worst weapons. We signed treaties. We smiled and cooperated and hoped the galaxy would treat us with the same kindness. Nathan's voice grew harder. That hope died on New Haven. He pressed a button, and the display showed footage from the attack on Station Corvin 6. Alien delegates gasped as they watched human soldiers move through the corridors with brutal efficiency. This is what we are capable of, Nathan said. This is what we held back for 300 years. Not because we were weak, because we knew what we could become if we let ourselves. The Vectri delegate jumped to his feet. This is barbarism. You are violating every law of civilized warfare. Nathan smiled that cold, thin smile. You had your chance to help us. You had your chance to stand up for the innocent people who died on New Haven. You chose to watch. You chose to send condolences and form committees while their bodies were still burning. He stepped away from the podium. So yes, we are done being civilized. We are done following rules that only protect the powerful. And if the Council wants to stop us, you are welcome to try. No one moved. Nathan walked toward the exit, then stopped and turned back. One more thing. High Sovereign Kethmara should know that we have located her position. We know where she sleeps. We know where her family lives. We have ships that can reach her world in 3 days. The Vectri delegate went pale. Tell her to start thinking about surrender, Nathan said. Because we will not stop until this is over. And we have a lot more weapons she has not seen yet. He left the chamber in silence. That night, 3 more Vectri stations went dark, across the galaxy. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries began to pay attention. They watched the news feeds with growing horror. They saw the footage of human soldiers moving through enemy territory without mercy or hesitation. And they began to understand something important. Humanity had not been weak. They had been patient. They had been kind. They had been holding back the darkness inside themselves, hoping they would never need to release it. Now that darkness was loose, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. 4 months had passed since the massacre at New Haven. 4 months since Earth declared war. And in that time, the galaxy had watched in stunned silence as humanity tore through the Vectri dominion. Like a fire through dry grass. The Vectri had expected a quick victory. They had expected the soft, peaceful humans to surrender after a few battles. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that did not stop, did not rest, and did not show mercy. Human fleets pushed deeper into Vectri space than any enemy had reached in 1,000 years. They attacked supply lines with ruthless precision. They destroyed fuel stations and left entire fleets stranded in the void. They cut communication networks and watched as Vectri commanders tried desperately to coordinate without being able to speak to each other. And everywhere they went, they left a message. Remember New Haven. High Sovereign Kethmara stood in her war room, surrounded by advisors who had no good news to give her. The holographic map in front of her showed the current state of the conflict. It was not good. We have lost contact with the outer colonies, one advisor reported. The humans have cut the supply routes. They are starving. Send relief ships, Kethmara ordered. We cannot, High Sovereign. Every ship we send is intercepted. The humans seem to know our movements before we make them. Another advisor stepped forward. It is worse than that. They are not just attacking military targets anymore. They are targeting our food production facilities. Our agricultural worlds are reporting crop failures after human ships pass nearby. Kethmara felt her blood run cold. They are poisoning our food supply? We do not know how. Our scientists cannot find anything wrong with the soil or the water. But the plants simply stop growing. This was the weapon that Dr. Michelle Torres had created. A biological agent that targeted the specific bacteria that vectory crops needed to survive. It left everything else untouched. But for the vectory, it meant slow starvation. This is barbarism, Kethmara whispered. This is against every law of warfare. Her military commander, a scarred veteran named Vethker, looked at her with tired eyes. High Sovereign, they do not care about laws anymore. They are fighting to hurt us, to break us, to make us feel what they felt when we destroyed their colony. Then we will destroy more of their colonies. We will make them pay. We cannot. Our fleets are scattered. Our communications are down. Half our ships have no fuel. Vethker bowed his head. High Sovereign, we are losing this war. Kethmara slammed her fist against the table. The Dominion does not lose. We have ruled this sector for 1,000 years. And in 4 months, the humans have done more damage to us than any enemy in our entire history. Vethker met her eyes. Perhaps it is time to consider other options. You mean surrender? I mean survival. Kethmara turned away. Through the window, she could see the stars that had once belonged to her empire. Now many of those stars were dark, silent, waiting for human ships to finish what they had started. Contact them, she said finally. Offer a ceasefire. Tell them we are willing to negotiate. The message was sent. The response came back within hours. 2 words. Not enough? On Earth? General Paul Henderson met with the United Council to discuss the vectory offer. The room was divided. Some wanted to accept the ceasefire and end the bloodshed. Others wanted to push forward until the Dominion was completely destroyed. Governor Lisa Morgan sat quietly, listening to both sides. She had been brought to Earth after surviving the massacre on New Haven. She had seen the bodies. She had walked through the ashes of cities she had helped build. Now she was being asked to help decide the fate of an entire species. We have them on their knees, Admiral Kevin Morris argued. If we stop now, they will rebuild. They will attack again. We need to finish this. Finish it how? Asked another council member. Are we talking about killing every vectory in the galaxy? Because that is what it will take. Dr. Michelle Torres stepped forward. Her face was pale, her eyes haunted. I can do it, she said quietly. Project Prometheus is complete. One deployment, and the vectory species becomes extinct within a generation. Every man, woman, and child. All of them. Gone. The room went silent. We would be no better than they are, someone whispered. We would be worse, Lisa Morgan said. Everyone turned to look at her. They killed 2 million of us. If we use that weapon, we kill billions of them, including people who had nothing to do with the attack on New Haven, children who were not even born when it happened. They killed our children, Admiral Morris replied. Why should we care about theirs? Lisa stood and walked to the center of the room. She was a small woman, her hair turned gray from stress, her eyes carrying a weight that would never lift. I was there, she said. I saw what they did. I held a dying child in my arms while the sky burned. I have more reason than anyone in this room to want them all dead. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was steady. But that is not who we are. That is not who I want us to become. If we kill every vectory because of what some of them did, we prove them right. We prove that we are just animals with better weapons. Then what do you suggest? General Henderson asked. I suggest we make them understand. Not through extinction, but through demonstration. Lisa looked at the holographic display showing the Vecthory homeworld. We have their planet surrounded. We have weapons that could end them forever. Let them see that. Let them know that we could do it, that we have every reason to do it, but that we are choosing not to. Why would that matter? Because fear only lasts until the threat is gone. But shame? Shame lasts forever. They need to live with what they did. They need to rebuild their society, knowing that humanity had the power to destroy them and chose mercy instead. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Dr. Torres spoke. She is right. If we use Project Prometheus, we become the monsters. We lose everything that made us worth saving in the first place. General Henderson looked at the weapon specifications on his tablet. The power to end an entire species held in his hands. What about justice? He asked. What about the people who died on New Haven? There will be justice, Lisa said. But justice is not the same as revenge. The ones responsible will pay. The warlords who gave the orders. The commanders who carried them out. But the farmers, the teachers, the children who had no part in it, they do not deserve death for crimes they did not commit. Admiral Morris shook his head. This is a mistake. They will hate us forever. They will wait for a chance to strike back. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But if we do this right, they will never forget what we could have done. They will live every day knowing that humanity showed them something they never showed us. Mercy. The vote was held. It was close, but in the end, the council agreed that Project Prometheus would not be deployed, but the Vecthory would still face judgment. A message was sent to High Sovereign Kethmora. Earth was not interested in a ceasefire. Earth was not interested in negotiations. Earth would accept only one thing: complete and unconditional surrender. And if that surrender did not come, within 30 days, humanity would demonstrate exactly what they were capable of. The clock began to tick. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Daniel Carter stared at the stars and thought about his daughter, Emma, who would love to wave at the sky. Emma, whose ashes were now scattered across the ruins of New Haven. We are almost there, he whispered to her memory. Almost there. And I promise, they will never hurt anyone like they hurt you. Not ever again. The fleet moved closer to the Vecthory homeworld. Judgment was coming. The Vecthory homeworld was called Kethver, the Eternal Throne. For 1,000 years, it had been the center of a mighty empire. Fleets had launched from its orbital stations to conquer dozens of species. Its cities glittered with the wealth of 100 conquered worlds. Now, those cities cowered under a sky filled with human warships. Commander Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dawn's Vengeance, and watched the planet turning slowly below. Somewhere down there, High Sovereign Kethmora was waiting to learn if her species would live or die. All ships in position, Commander, his tactical officer reported. We have complete orbital control. Every defense platform has been destroyed. Every Vecthory warship has been disabled or captured. Daniel nodded slowly. 6 months ago, he had stood at a window and watched helplessly as the Vecthory burned New Haven. Now he stood above their homeworld, with the power to return the favor 1,000 times over. It would be so easy. One order, and the bombardment would begin. One order, and millions of Vecthory would burn just like his wife and daughter had burned. He had dreamed of this moment. In the dark nights after the massacre, when grief had twisted into rage, he'd imagined standing exactly where he stood now. He had imagined giving that order. He had imagined watching their cities turn to ash, but Governor Lisa Morgan's words echoed in his mind. That is not who we are. That is not who I want us to become. Prepare the shuttle, Daniel said. I am going down to the surface. High Sovereign Kethmora was brought to the landing platform in chains. Her scales, once bright with power and pride, were dull with exhaustion. Her 4 eyes, which had watched the footage from New Haven with satisfaction, now stared at the ground in defeat. Daniel Carter stepped off the shuttle and walked toward her. Behind him came Governor Morgan, Ambassador Price, and Dr. Torres. Behind them came 200 human soldiers, their weapons ready but not raised. "Hi, Sovereign," Daniel said. "Your war is over." Cathmara lifted her head. "Are you here to kill me? To destroy my world like we destroyed yours? I am here to show you something." He gestured to Dr. Torres, who stepped forward with a small container. Inside was a vial of clear liquid that seemed to glow faintly in the light. "Do you know what this is?" Daniel asked. Cathmara shook her head. "This is called Project Prometheus. 1 drop of this in your atmosphere, and every Vectary on this planet dies. Not immediately. Slowly. Over years. Your children will be born sick. Your crops will fail. Your species will fade away like a bad dream." The High Sovereign's eyes went wide with terror. "You would commit genocide? You would kill billions?" "We could." Daniel took the vial from Torres and held it up. "We have enough of this to treat every Vectary world, every colony, every ship. In 1 generation, there would be no Vectary left anywhere in the galaxy." Cathmara was shaking now. "Please, please, I will give you anything. The ones who planned the attack on your colony are already dead. Warlord Dexeron was executed by your soldiers. What more do you want?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. He thought about Emma, waving at the stars. He thought about his wife's laugh. He thought about all the ordinary people on New Haven who had just wanted to build a good life. Then he put the vial back in its container. "We want you to remember," he said. "We want you to live the rest of your lives knowing that we could have ended you. We had every right. We had every reason. Your people burned our children alive and laughed about it." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "But we are not you. We choose to be better. And that is the real reason you lost this war. Not because our weapons were stronger. Not because our ships were faster. You lost because you thought kindness was weakness. You thought mercy was cowardice. You were wrong." Governor Eliza Morgan stepped forward. "There will be conditions for your survival. Your military will be dissolved. Your empire will be broken into independent worlds. The leaders who ordered the attack on New Haven will be tried for war crimes. Your people will pay reparations for 100 years. And if we refuse?" Cathmara asked. Daniel held up the container one more time. "Then we come back. And next time, we will not be merciful." The surrender documents were signed that evening. The Galactic Council sent observers, though none of them had lifted a finger to help during the war. They watched in silence as the mightiest empire in the sector bowed to a species they had dismissed as soft and weak. Ambassador Nathan Price addressed the council one final time. He stood at the podium where he had declared war 6 months ago. But this time, he did not speak of vengeance. "We came to your stars with open hands," he said. "We wanted trade, partnership, friendship. We followed your rules. We signed your treaties. We trusted that civilization meant something." He looked around the chamber at the faces of 100 species. "The Vectary taught us a hard lesson. They taught us that some species see kindness as an invitation to attack. They taught us that peace can be a trap for the innocent." Nathan paused, letting his words sink in. "But we also learned something about ourselves. We learned that we are capable of terrible things. We have weapons that could end entire species. We have the will to use them if we must." He took a deep breath. "Today, we choose not to use them. We choose to let the Vectary live. Not because they deserve mercy, but because we do. Because becoming monsters would cost us more than any victory is worth. He walked to the edge of the stage. So here is our new promise to the galaxy. We will never start a war. We will never attack first. We will continue to reach out with open hands, hoping to find species who want friendship instead of conquest. His voice hardened. But if you bring death to our people, we will finish it. We will find you wherever you hide. We will tear down everything you have built. And we will make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness. The chamber was completely silent. New Haven will be rebuilt, Nathan continued. Our dead will be remembered. And the Vectory will live with the knowledge that they were saved by the very people they tried to destroy. He turned and walked toward the exit, then stopped one last time. Remember this day. Remember what we could have done and what we chose instead. That is who humans are. That is what civilization actually means. Not hiding from violence, but choosing mercy when violence would be easier. He looked directly into the recording devices that were broadcasting his words across the galaxy. We are done being pushed around. We are done trusting that others will protect the innocent. From this day forward, humanity will be its own guardian. And if the universe sends us enemies, we will make them wish they had stayed home. Nathan Price walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the galaxy began to whisper. They had watched a species transform in 6 months. They had seen peaceful explorers become ruthless warriors and then, somehow, choose to become guardians instead. On the Dawn's vengeance, Commander Daniel Carter stood at his window one last time. The Vectory homeworld was growing smaller as the fleet began its journey home. He had not found peace. He did not think he ever would. But he had found something else. Purpose. We did it, Emma, he whispered to the stars. We made sure it will never happen again. And we did it without becoming the monsters they wanted us to be. In his pocket was a small photograph. A little girl with bright eyes, waving at the sky. He pressed his hand against the window, the way he had done every night when she was alive. Somewhere out there, among the endless stars. He hoped she was still waving back. The fleet turned toward Earth. The war was over, but humanity would never forget. And the galaxy would never forget them.